Did you talk to her? His best friend asked him, sipping on his drink. He shook his head and looked down sadly. I don't know what has happened to her. I haven't met her from like 2 weeks. On top of that, she is ignoring my texts and calls. I don't know what to do. You should go to her home and talk to her. I did. I went to her apartment, but her best friend said she wasn't home. When I clearly saw her hiding behind a pillar, I thought she didn't want to talk, so I just came back. Hmm, maybe you did something that made her upset. As far as I remember, we went on a date, which ended pretty well. We were in contact via calls and text messages, and then suddenly one day she stopped responding. He sighed. He was exhausted. Work was already stressful for him, and his girlfriend's behavior wasn't helping either. He rubbed his forehead in frustration. We could fix a problem that we know, but when I don't know the problem, what am I supposed to do? Taeyong cleared his throat and leaned forward. He intertwined his hands and placed them on the table. If you don't mind, can I ask something? Since when did you started asking for permission before saying something? Uh, do you think wine can, maybe cheating? He asked with hesitation, earning a glare from him. I swear, Taeyong. Jimin was ready to jump on him. Taeyong raised his hands in surrender. Before you kill me, I was just stating a reason for her behavior. Don't look at me like you are going to eat me raw. Wine can never, you hear me? Never cheat on me. She can't even think about it. I know her very well. Fine, don't start with your vinology again. He rolled his eyes. Anyways, just text her to come and meet you and talk like adults so that you guys can solve whatever the problem is. This hide and seek is so childish. What if she still didn't respond? Just do as I say. We will see what happens afterward. He did as his best friend told him. He texted her and waited patiently. 10 minutes passed, 20 minutes passed, still there was no response. I told you, let's pay the bill and go. I am tired of trying now. In the end, all I got is disappointment. Taeyong looked at him sadly. He patted his shoulder. Just when they were about to stand up, his mobile pinged with a message. He quickly picked it and grinned like a crazy person. It's fine, right? He nodded like a child. She wanted to meet me on our usual spot. Finally. Now go and listen to her side before doing anything. Okay, okay. He pulled out a small blue velvet box from his pocket. Bro, don't tell me you're going to propose her today. Do you think it's right time? Well, I also didn't plan to do it today. But in these 2 weeks, I learned I can't live without her. I just want her with me all the time. And it's been almost 6 years since we are dating. Every time is right time for me. Oh my god, my little friend has grown up. I can't wait to see your children. He dramatically wiped his fake tears, earning a smack on his head. Oh, though your height is short, but you got some muscles. It hurts. He rubbed his head. You again talk about my height. Looks like you don't love your life anymore. Fine, I forgive you. Now go, your girlfriend must be waiting for you. We can continue our bromance some other time. Yeah, yeah, I am going. But when did I said sorry? You just did. He laughed and ran from there before Jimin can choke him. This brat. When Jimin reached at the park, Wyan was already there sitting on one of the benches. He smiled. Wyan. She looked at him and stood up. He walked towards her with big steps and engulfed her in a tight hug. He kissed her hair. I missed you so much. Wyan didn't hug him back, but he shrugged it off. After a long hug, he pulled back and cupped her cheeks. That's when he looked at her face. Her eyes were dull, eye bags under her eyes, and her face was pale and blank with no emotions. He pressed his lips on her forehead for a long peck. He kissed her cheekbone with his thumb. How have you been? You are okay, right? She just stared at his face with a blank look. Okay, we'll talk about everything, but before that, I have something for you. He pulled out the ring box from his pocket and kneeled down in front of her. I know this is so sudden and I'm not prepared either. I don't know what to say. I know you are thinking that your boyfriend is dumb. But only you can handle this Dumbo. Please do the honor of marrying me. Will you marry me, Wine? Yes or yes? He blabbered with a wide smile on his face. She stared at him without saying anything. Say something, sweetheart. My legs are paining now. Let's break up. His smile dropped. Silence spread between them. They both stared at each other before Jimin burst into laughter. Nice joke, Wine, but the timing is not right. He chuckled, but Wine's expressions were serious. He stood up facing her. Wine, you are joking, right? Or maybe you said yes and then I heard something else. He laughed, which was clearly forced. I am not joking. Let's break up. Wine, if this is a prank, then I swear will be so angry. I won't talk to you, I'm telling you. Do I look like I am joking? His face turned gloomy, his eyes watered. Why? Why so suddenly? Everything was going good. Do you want to break up? Did I do something? I'm sorry, fine. Let's fix this. There's nothing that can be fixed. I don't love you anymore. She said, looking away from him. He chuckled. Like I'll believe you. I know you more than anyone. Say this looking in my eyes. She took a deep breath. She fisted hem of her dress in her hands. She clenched her jaw and looked directly at his eyes. I don't love you anymore. In fact, I love someone else and I want to spend my life with him. A tear dropped from his eyes, followed by more. I can't carry on with this relationship. Let's break up so that we both can be free. You live your life and I live mine. All the time he tried to find an ounce of emotions in her eyes, but they were blank. She went from there, leaving him in tears. He stood there, frozen on his spot. He fisted the ring box in his hand and closed his eyes, thinking that it was just a nightmare. When he will open his eyes, one will jump on him with a smile, saying that it was just a prank. But she was gone, breaking his heart into pieces. Was it that easy for her to fall out of love? Was he just a fool all the time? This was what he got after loving her so selflessly and unconditionally. He fell on the ground and sobbed loudly. He grabbed his chest. It was paining like someone had stabbed a knife and was twisting it continuously. His phone rang. He picked it with shaky hands. Yo, bro, when is the wedding? I'm telling you, I'm going to pick clothes for you and I need to groom you. You have to look presentable at your wedding. Taeyong, he whispered with a shaky voice. Jimin, are you okay? What happened? They please take this pain away. It hurts. He said with shivering voice before everything blacked out. Taeyong was screaming his name from the other side. Meanwhile, Vine came to her apartment which she shared with her best friend Meena. Her shoulders slumped down and she walked with heavy steps like she was forcing herself to walk. Meena stood up from the couch as she noticed her. She came towards her with a concerned face. Did you talk to him? Vine looked at her. I broke up with him. Shocked would be an understatement what Meena felt that time. What? But you. Before she finished, Vine fell on her knees and burst into tears, startling her. I broke his heart, Meena. He was crying. He was asking me to fix the problem, but nothing can be fixed. I told him I don't love him anymore, and I love someone else. I Meena bent to her level and pulled her in her arms. She couldn't control herself from crying, seeing her best friend's miserable condition. What did you do, Ryan? You should have told him the truth. No, I can't. And promise me you won't tell anything to him. But promise me. Meena hesitantly nodded. It's been 3 days since that incident. Ryan locked herself in her room. All she did is cry, cursing her fate. She was an orphan. She has nobody to call a family. When she met Jimin, she thought that she will have her own family which she'll create with him. it will be full of joy and happiness. But maybe she wasn't fated for a permanent happiness. She was silently crying when she heard a knock. Meena came inside with a plate of food. She placed the plate on the bed and sat beside her on the floor. Van, eat something. You have been starving yourself. I'm not hungry. I ain't listening anything. Eat the food right now. She filled the spoon with rice and put it in front of her mouth. Van looked at her. Why me, Veena? Why me every time? Why is it so hard for me to be happy? It won't be that hard if you have told him the truth, Van. That was very stupid of you. I don't know anything. All I know is I love him and I want his happiness, even if it's not with me. Meena didn't say anything after that. She somehow made her eat a little bit. After feeding her, she picked the plate and went to the door. Before closing the door, she looked at her for a few seconds. I know I promised you not to tell anything to him, but I can tell someone else, right? After all, I want is your happiness. Meena thought. She went out, closing the door. Few more days rolled down, and it has been already a week since Ryan broke up with Jimin. Her condition was deteriorating day by day. She hasn't stepped out of her room since then. Meena brought her food in her room and made her eat forcefully. Ryan just stared at air aimlessly. There was a knock on the door before it opened. Ryan didn't bother to look up as she already knew it was Meena. Ryan, Jimin is here. Her head snapped towards her direction, hearing his name. Her heartbeat increased. What is he doing here? I don't know. He asked for you. She nodded. I am coming. Meena went out and she moved to bathroom to wash her face. After washing her face and concealing her eye bags, she moved downstairs into the living room. He was sitting on couch. His back was facing her. With every footstep closer to him, her heartbeat was also increasing. Sensing her presence, he stood up and turned towards her. She noticed him keenly. He was slimmer than before. His chubby cheeks weren't there anymore. His face was pale, and his eyes, which used to be bright, were red and dull. He smiled at her, a genuine one. Hi, Ryan. How have you been? Oh, you must be good. You may be thinking, why am I here? I am here to invite you to a wedding. My wedding. Floor slipped beneath her feet. Her breath quickened. Her eyes watered, but she tried her best not to drop a single tear. He forwarded his hand, and it was held by a girl whom Ryan hasn't noticed yet. He smiled at the girl. Meet my fiance, Leah. Ryan looked at the girl who smiled at her. She was indeed pretty. Here my wedding invitation. I'll be happy if you will come. After all, because of you I met the right person for me. He forwarded the card which she held with her shaky hands. We should leave now. We have a lot of work. Don't forget, Ryan, next Sunday. I'll be waiting for you. He looked at her for the last time before going out from there, dragging the girl along with him. After he went, Meena went closer to Ryan, who cased his name on the wedding card. That's what I wanted, Meena, but why does it hurt so much seeing his name with someone else? You won't go anywhere, Ryan. I'll go. He invited me himself. I wanted to see him happy for the last time. I'll come with you. I won't let you go alone. Ryan hugged her tightly and sobbed in her arms. Ryan and Meena reached at the venue where Jimin was going to get married. They bumped into someone. He was Taeyong. Ryan smiled at him, but he looked at her with a poker face and went away. Ryan sighed and looked down. He's rude. She rolled her eyes. You would be the same if you were at this place. Let's go. They both sat in the last corner. Ryan looked at Jimin dressed in three-piece black tuxedo. Taeyong and his cousin was standing beside him. His face was gloomy and he was looking around in the crowd, and then his eyes stuck at her. Soon the music started playing, indicating bride entry. Everyone was looking at the bride, but his eyes were stuck at her. How she wished it was her who was walking down the aisle towards her groom. She smiled sadly. Her head was throbbing in pain. She got up with difficulty. She didn't want to see him taking vows with someone else. She turned around to walk out. She stumbled in her steps and held her head, which was bursting with pain. Black dot appeared in front of her eyes, but before she could fall, she felt familiar warmth around her body. She opened her eyes to find him looking at her with worried eyes. She smiled before everything turned black. Vine groaned and tried to open her eyes. She blinked twice to adjust the brightness of the room. She looked at the ceiling, and with the odor, she knew she was in the hospital. She remembered passing out in Jimin's arms. She looked around and found Meena sleeping on a chair, resting her head beside her. She was surprised to find Taeyong sleeping on the couch placed there. But the only person wasn't there whom she wanted to see this time. Why would he be there? Today was his wedding. He wasn't her boyfriend anymore. He was someone's husband now, who was not her obviously. She didn't know she was crying till now. A loud sob left her lips, startling the other two persons. Meena woke up with a jerk. Taeyong came running beside her bed. Oh my god, Vine, are you okay? Does it hurt somewhere? Taeyong was looking at her with concern. My head hurts. Let me call the doctor. He ran outside to call the doctor. Meena was crying, holding her hand. Few minutes later, the doctor came inside and injected her. Her eyes felt heavy. She saw his blurry image before drifting to sleep again. Next time she woke up, she was alone in the room. She stared at the ceiling. She wanted to see him at least for a few minutes. She knew she was being selfish, but she couldn't help it. She was in her thoughts when the bathroom door opened. She averted her eyes towards the bathroom door and her eyes widened. He was there. She closed and opened her eyes few times, thinking it is as a dream. He chuckled at her cuteness. I am here. You are not dreaming. What are you doing here? Why? I can't be here. He raised his eyebrows. No, I mean, your wedding? She shuddered. My wedding? He asked with a confused face. Yeah, your wedding. You were going to get married today. I was there. I wasn't getting married to anyone. Van clenched her jaw in anger. Stop playing with my feelings. I clearly remember everything. He chuckled and sat on the chair beside her bed. And what about you? You got the right to play with my feelings? Was that all a game for you? Her face turned blank. I. Stop. I'll speak today. Why didn't you tell me you have a brain tumor? Why, Van? Don't you trust me? Van shook her head and tried to hold his hand. No, don't touch me. Tell me, why did you do this? You know how much it hurts me? They both were crying by now. I don't have much time left. I don't want you to cry for me. I thought this will be the best for you. You will hate me and will move on eventually. My love isn't that weak that it'll fade away in few days. Tell me one thing. What if I was at your place? Would you leave me and move on with someone else? Never. Then why do you expect me to do it? I thought maybe my love lags somewhere. No, 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 Jimin. You're the best. But I am not lucky enough. He sighed and looked away. Wiping his tears with the back of his hand, he turned to her. I completed all the formalities. You need a surgery and you'll be fine. I can't, Jimin. There are very few chances that I'll make it. More or less, there are still chances. You are my strong one. You'll definitely make it. He held her hand and kissed the back of it. If I didn't, then please move on in your life. He sighed and held her jaw gently before kissing her. He pulled back after a long, loving kiss. Will you like it if I kiss someone else like this? Vine sniffed and shook her head. Will you like it if I love someone else? Sleeping with her, holding her in my arms, feeding her, making love to her, have kids with her. Will you like it? Tell me. Vine sobbed loudly and shook her head. Then, why do you want me to forget you? It's either you or no one. And what is I'll be gone or whatever. You will survive. You have to survive. Not for me, not for you, but for us. You have to. He rested his forehead on her and closed his eyes. They both stay like that for some time. But your fiance and I don't have any fiance. My girlfriend never accepted my proposal. And the wedding card that was specially prepared for you. So it was all an act. Yes, but the wedding was real. It was my cousin and Leah's wedding. He kissed her forehead and kissed her head. Don't think too much and sleep. He kissed her lips, which was interrupted by with a loud gasp. They looked towards the voice to see their best friend standing there. You never kissed me. You aren't his girlfriend. Then you give me one. He puckered his lips and leaned towards her. Meena made a disgusting face and pushed him. Ew, stay away from me. Not until I get a kiss from you. She ran across the room while he followed her, pouting his lips. Jimin rolled his eyes while Wyan laughed at them. Jimin smiled, hearing her laugh heartily. Wyan looked at Jimin and said, they are definitely going to end up together. Him and I together. You, never in my dreams. Meena gave Taeyong a disgusting look, who smirked and winked at her. He came towards her and wrapped his arms around her shoulder. And you will see, we are going to have kids before you. He stated with a proud face, but winced when Meena hit him with her elbow. Shameless jerk. All the preparations for the surgery were made, all the necessary tests had performed, and it was time to take Wyan to operation theatre. She was scared. Hell, she was terrified. She didn't know if she would come out alive or not. Though Jimin was showing himself strong in front of her, but inside he was hella nervous and afraid. Sir, it's time. He nodded at her. Meena came towards her and kissed her forehead. Everything will be fine. She smiled slightly. Taeyong patted her head in a comforting manner. Jimin was beside her holding her hand. Soon some nurses came and pushed a stretcher towards the OT. He was walking beside her, still holding her hand. He bent to her level and kissed her forehead. You have to do it, okay? I am waiting for you. She smiled slightly and nodded before he was stopped by the nurse and wine was taken inside. The tears that he had been holding fell continuously. He felt a squeeze on his shoulder. He craned his neck to find Taeyong, who nodded at him assuringly. He hugged him and shoved on his shoulder. She will be fine, right? She will. 7 hours passed, but the surgery was still going on. There was no information about Wyan till now. Jimin was sitting on a chair, glancing at the door again and again. He was getting impatient with each passing second. Meena was sleeping on Taeyong's shoulder after crying like a child in his arms. Taeyong was restless, but was being strong for his best friend. Another hour passed when finally the door of OT opened and the team of doctors came out. Jimin stood up with a jerk and strode towards them. Taeyong shook Meena, who groaned before finally waking up. Taeyong stood up, walking in Jimin's direction, followed by Meena. How is she, doctor? She is fine, right? The doctors sighed before looking at each other and shook their head. I am sorry. A loud gasp heard from the 12 years old boy, Minho. What happened to your girlfriend, Dad? Didn't she make through the surgery? His father sighed. Before he could respond to his son, a loud voice startled him. Dad. He smiled and stood up to see his daughter running towards him. She jumped on him, hugging him like a koala, making him groan. Minji, you aren't little anymore. You're 16. You're going to break your poor father's spine someday, he said, putting his daughter on her feet. Dad, you always say I'm your little princess, she whined. You will always be my little princess, even if you become 80 years old grandma. He pinched her cheeks. Dad, she whined and shot a glare at her brother when she heard him laugh. Mama. He ran towards his mother, who was glaring at her daughter carrying dozens of bags in her hands. Minji smiled nervously. Sorry, Mom, I just missed Dad. She hid her father's embrace, avoiding her mother's glare. Mama, did you bring my chocolate? She smiled and nodded at the little boy before handing him his favorite chocolates. He jumped excitedly but stopped when he remembered something. What happened to your girlfriend, Dad? The two females snapped their heads towards him. What? Girlfriend? Mom, did you hear? If looks can kill, then Jimin would be dead by then with his wife's glare. He gulped and laughed nervously. It was you, baby. I was telling our story to Minho. She narrowed her eyes at him. Minho, champ, she was in coma for 3 years. After she woke up and recovered, I proposed her and we got married. Then we had your sister and then you. She's your amma. She's the only girlfriend I have ever had. He blurted out in one breath, seeing his wife glare. Are you saying the truth? He nodded vigorously. Wine, baby, don't look at me like that. You're scaring me. That was the last straw when she and Minji burst into laughter. Oh god, Dad, you should have seen your face. You guys are so mean. He slumped on the couch sulking. Wyan smiled and sat beside him, forwarding his favorite ice cream in front of him. He grinned and took it before munching on it. The little family enjoyed their ice cream party, talking and laughing together. Oh god, what happened? He didn't say anything and looked at his sister with puppy eyes. No, don't even think about it. I ain't doing any of your project. You always remember at the last moment. No, a big no. Please. Mom, Dad, that's a very bad habit, Minho. You should do your work by yourself. I forgot. That's not a good thing. He pouted sadly. He cupped his sister's cheeks. I'm sorry, but only this time, please. I won't forget from next time, please. You are my beautiful sister. You are the best in the world. He showed his best puppy eyes, something he inherited from his father. Minji sighed in defeat. Fine, but only this time. He squealed in happiness. She stood up from couch. Let's go. He climbed on the couch and jumped on her back while she carried him towards his room. Wine and Jimin smiled at their kid's bond. When they were out of their sight, Jimin picked her up, adjusting her on his lap. She yelped in surprise. He kissed her cheeks. What are you doing? Romancing with my unromantic wife. Unromantic. And me. Yes, you. Elaborate, please. You forgot to give me goodnight kiss yesterday. You didn't give me my morning kiss. You went out without giving me a kiss. And now when you came back, you didn't kiss me. You know how lonely my lips are feeling. So unromantic. He complained like a child. Why smiled and smashed her lips on his, sharing a beautiful kiss. Pulling out of the kiss, she grinned ear to ear. Thank you for not giving up on me and giving me this beautiful family. I love you. I love you more. He stood up with her in his arms. What are you doing, Jimin? Shower time, he said, bouncing her in his arms. I know what do you mean by shower time. Kids are here, Jimin. They are big enough to understand the business between us. So shut up. She rolled her eyes but smiled nonetheless. Meanwhile, the scene was witnessed by their kids who came to grab some snacks. What are they doing? Bro, do you mind having another sibling? Really? I would love to have someone younger than me, he remarked excitedly. Then let's not disturb them, and we have a project to make. Come on. She dragged him from there before he could hurt something and get traumatized.